set up your workstation for a good, efficient service. You've got all the stock that you need to get through the next period. If your machine's been off overnight, it's really important to give it at least half an hour to heat up, and then you want to purge some water through the group heads and through the boiler spout to freshen up all the water moving through the machine. Once your machine temperature has come up, just check that your steam pressure is nice and high. It should be sitting around 1 to 1.1 bar. Make sure that your machine group head pressure is also nice and high. It's also really important to understand that your coffee machine has a few hazards. You've got power cables, you've got hot water, and you've got hot steam. So really make sure that there's nothing protruding anywhere, no cables anywhere, and no water leaking from your machine. Then it's best to check that all the equipment is clean. So open up the baskets, just make sure they're nice and clean from the day before, and comfortable that they are, put them back in, ready to use. Also make sure your steam arms are really nice and clean with no milk buildup. Setting up your grinder of a morning, you want to make sure that there are no oils in there from the day before, it's nice and clean, and you want to top with fresh beans for what you're going to use in the next 2 to 4 hours. I've put in about half a kilo into the grinder. Anything that you don't want to put in the hopper right now, you want to keep it airtight. So use sticky tape or an elastic band, keep the bag closed, and maybe even put it in an airtight container. Make sure there's no powder in the chamber from overnight. If there is, get rid of it. Now you've got fresh beans and you're ready to start. Coffee is a fresh product, and ideally you want to use it between 1 and 4 weeks of when it was roasted. So you want to make sure when you're storing the bags whole, you keep them away from heat, light, air and moisture, and especially what you have in the hopper itself. You don't want it to be in there for longer than 2 to 4 hours, and you do not want to fill up your grinder chamber full of powder because it goes stale very quickly, within a matter of minutes. So I've put in about half a kilo into my hopper, and that'll make me about 40 coffees. So I have enough beans in my hopper for the next service period. I've got crockery, it's nice and warm, ready to use. I've got takeaway cups and lids. I've got saucers and spoons, and my milk jugs are ready to go. If you use a thermometer in your site, you want to make sure that it's calibrated properly, otherwise who knows what temperature your milk is. So the best way to do this is to grab a medium-sized jug, fill it with ice, and fill it with cold water. Let it sit for a couple of minutes and put your thermometer inside it. It should sit on 0 degrees. If it doesn't, it means your thermometer is not accurate and you need to adjust it. You can do that just by twisting the screw at the back to adjust the needle so it sits on 0 while it's inside the jug. It's also important to make sure you have different sized milk jugs. You're not always going to need a big jug to texture milk, so you want a big one, a medium one and a small one. If you're making one coffee, you only want to use a small jug to do it. It's important to have different coloured cleaning cloths as well, one for your steam arm and one for your bench. What you're using to wipe the steam arm, you don't want to have been used on the bench or on any other surface because it's a hygiene risk. Now, with the workstation setup, it's not always possible depending on your site, but you really want to have the grinder on one side of the machine and you want to be doing milk on the other side of the machine. What that means is when you're busy, you can have more than one barista behind the machine making coffees, and it makes you more efficient. So ideally, grinder on this side, shots get pulled from this side, and then milk jugs, takeaway cups, lids, sugar, spoons, it's all on the other side of the machine. So you've got workflow moving one side to the other.